Hello and welcome. I'm Sulaiman Aled. Tonight, Boko Haram sect militants strike in Kukawa local government of Borno State, kill about 97 people. Vice President Oshibajo assures internally displaced persons in Yola, Adamawa State of President Buhari's resolve to end terrorism in the northeast. Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai vows to end bloody ethno-religious crisis in southern part of the state. Inaugurates Committee on Prevention and Management of Communal Clashes. Security forces in Tunisia detain 8 suspects, including a woman, in connection with last Friday's deadly attack on the resort of Susse.
And on business news tonight, the bears sustained hold on the Nigerian equities market as the all-share index loses 0.38 percentage points at the close of trading today. Well, in sports news, Spain's Rafael Nadal suffers a shock exit at Wimbledon Championships, losing to Dustin Brown in the second round.
We begin tonight on a rather sad note, as members of the Boko Haram sect have killed about 97 people in Kukawa local government of Borno State. Fleeing witnesses say the assailants rounded a mosque and opened fire as Muslim worshippers were about to break their fast yesterday evening. Houses were set ablaze and the body of those killed were equally burnt beyond recognition. Security sources, who would not want to be quoted, confirmed a similar attack in Musara village of Mongono local council same evening, where 4 to 5 locals are feared killed. The assailants reportedly came in a convoy of 4 Hilux vans and unleashed terror around 8 p.m. Let's now join our correspondent there, Blessing Tuna, who will be telling us more on what transpired between that day and now. Blessing, thanks for joining us on the News at 10. Could you bring us up to date on what exactly is happening at the moment?
Thank you very much. What happened in Kukawa yesterday was quite unfortunate, even though the news just filtered in today, because the telecommunication devices in most of the local governments here in Borno State have been destroyed by the insurgents. So the news only came in today, and we understand that the witnesses told us that while they were about to break their fast yesterday, the insurgents just stormed Kukawa and unleashed terror. And the figure we got from witnesses is 97, but we cannot verify it right now. We are having to rely on the testimony of some of the witnesses that fled from those areas, and that's all we are able to gather for now.
The figures are rather high. Are there any survivors yet?
Yes, there are survivors. There are survivors. Some of them actually fled from those areas. Some of them were able to get to Maiduguri. And then there were some people, some from Mongono, that were actually planning to return to Mongono. And we spoke to some of them, and they told us that they met some people that fled from those areas, and that with the news they have received, they are having to shelve their plans of returning to their hometown.
How close are these two communities? If you look at it, we're talking about a village in Mongono local council and another in Kukawa local council. You have an idea of the proximity of these two villages?
Yes, they are quite. They are neighboring local governments actually. Kukawa and Mongono, they are neighbor. They share the border. They are not quite far from each other. But then Mongono to the state capital is about 150 kilometers or thereabouts.
We'd like to thank you very much. Blessing, you stay safe. We'll get back to you in the course of our other bulletins. Channels Television correspondent there speaking on the very unfortunate incident that occurred in Borno State. 2 local council areas, that of Kukawa and Mongono area in the Nigeria's northeast. Staying with the violence in Nigeria's northeast region, and the president of the Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has condemned renewed attack by Boko Haram in northeastern part of the country. In spite of the ongoing Ramadan fast, Dr. Saraki says that he is displeased over suicide attacks in Maiduguri, while the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, was in Borno State for assessment of the situation of the internally displaced persons. The Senate President adds that Boko Haram is not invincible and says that he's got no doubt that the present administration possess the requisite political will and determination to decisively fight the insurgents and restore security to affected areas. He goes on to commend the military for their bravery so far, but notes that Nigerians are eager to see a quick end to the carnage and bloodletting. To other stories here, the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has vowed to end the frequent ethno-religious crises that have killed several people in the southern part of the state. He made this commitment while inaugurating a committee to look into the prevention and management of communal clashes in the state. Governor El-Rufai urged the members to use their wealth of experience to end the communal violence.
Over the years, Kaduna State has witnessed several ethno-religious and political crises. Prominent among them is the continuous bloody clashes between the Fulani herdsmen and the local farmers, especially in the southern part of the state. Just last week, some unknown gunmen killed 13 people and wounded 15 others at Katsak community in Jama local government area. Worried by these developments, the state government decided to set up this committee to look into the remote and immediate cause of the clashes. The committee is saddled with the responsibility of encouraging and facilitating dialogue among warring parties.
We are concerned because communities that have been together for hundreds of years have suddenly appeared to have turned against each other. We know that these problems can only be solved through community dialogue and getting to the root of the problem and bringing everyone to the table.
The chairman of the committee and former Chief of Defense Staff, General Martin Luther Agwai, acknowledged that a responsible government will not toy with the lives of its citizens. He promised that the committee will ensure that lasting peace is restored in southern Kaduna.
Luckily, all the chiefdom are represented. So we will go down, we will discuss, we will find out, and I believe with the support and with the enthusiasm shown by His Excellency the Governor of Kaduna State, we'll be able to make a positive progress this time around.
With the root causes of the clashes listed out, other members of the committee believe that with dialogue, mediation and political will, there will be light at the end of the tunnel.
The Fulanis who are actually engaged in the attacking our people are looking for grazing ground, grazing land. And our people are also looking for where to farm. And that has always been the area where the conflicts start. Looking at the composition of this committee, I'm very optimistic that this time around there will be solutions to the problem.
The committee has 1 month to complete its assignment. It is expected that at the end of the day, a lasting solution will be found to end the crisis in the southern Kaduna.
Still with this insurgency update, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, is bothered about renewed attacks by Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast. A statement issued by Speaker Dogara, he says that he's deeply worried over the recent spate of killings of innocent citizens by the insurgents. While condemning the violence, the Speaker asked the military and other security agencies not to despair in their effort to stamp out Boko Haram from the region. The Speaker is, however, commending the military for the successes recorded in the past month against the insurgents, but appealing to officers and men of the military to redouble their effort. He is hopeful that with the ongoing reorganization of the security agencies by President Muhammadu Buhari, the insurgents will be stamped out. The federal government is once again assuring Nigerians that it is determined to end terrorist insurgency in the northeast and restore the livelihood of Nigerians who have been badly affected by terror. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who has been traveling in the northeast in the last 2 days on instruction of President Muhammadu Buhari, told the IDPs in the NYSC camp and terrorism patients at the Federal Medical Center, both in Yola, the Adamawa State capital, that the president is ever so mindful of the plight of those affected by the Boko Haram insurgency. Professor Shibajo adds that President Buhari wants the IDPs and all victims of terrorism to be hopeful that there would be restoration. The Vice President says the task of demining affected farmlands in the recovered areas ravaged by insurgency would receive utmost priority of government, as it is a very important step in achieving the primary objective of rehabilitation and resettlement of displaced persons back to their homes. On his part, the Adamawa State Governor, Umar Jibrila, told the Vice President that Adamawa State will require not less than 200 billion naira to recover the victims' loss. The Federal Inland Revenue Tax collection from the oil industry in the month of March this year was the worst performance from the oil industry in the last 15 years. The acting chairman of the FIRS, Mr. Samuel Ogugbenso, said the reason for the woeful performance is because three major oil companies had nothing to report because of the huge increase in the cost of production. Mr. Ogugbenso, who was at a meeting with the Senate President, lamented that most foreign countries are not buying Nigeria's crude oil because they have alternative source of energy from shale oil.
This is the first meeting between federal lawmakers in the 8th Assembly and officials of the Federal Inland Revenue. The meeting, called at the instance of the Senate President, is to examine strategies to improve tax collection in the country. With a drop in revenue as a result of dwindling oil price in the international market, Nigeria has to urgently find ways of generating revenue to fund the national budget. The acting chairman of the FIRS, Mr. Samuel Ogugbenso, told lawmakers how much the agency has collected in taxes this year and the challenges confronting the agency.
147, 150 was what we did for January, February. March it went down to 93, and it was worse. This is the worst performance from oil industry in the last 15 years. 50 billion was what we collected. There were three major oil companies that actually had nothing to report because of the huge increase in cost of production. We have oil, but most of the foreign countries are even not picking our oils anymore because they have developed shale oil, and so they will be asking themselves, what will they still need to do with the oil from here?
He also explained strategies on ground to generate revenue, one of which is tax from luxury items.
We also looked at those who own private jets and thought that, yeah, you're enjoying facility or assets which most Nigeria do not have privilege to enjoy. We will levy something we'll call surcharge on you. But regrettably, we've not been able to administer this. The company said, you levy me 100 million now because I use a private jet. Have I killed anyone? We know they haven't killed anyone, but we want them to contribute.
The Senate President says the National Assembly would give the FIRS the support it needs to perform its role efficiently. But he is, however, skeptical about luxury tax.
I'm happy you talk about some of these surcharges. You know, those surcharges are not just sensational issues. They're not sincere, and we should stop deceiving Nigerians. That is not the issue. The issue to us today: how can we expand the net? How can we ensure that everybody is paying taxes? Not saying you are charging things that will just make headlines.
The Senate President says the drive to improve revenue generation in Nigeria will depend largely on ramping up other sources of revenue outside oil and gas. Therefore, the Senate is going to be stringent on its oversight of the Federal Inland Revenue. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Still to come on News at 10, Lagos State Government denies demolishing Ladipo Automobile spare parts market. Stay with us.